Hi guys. So we just finished reading chapters 7 and 8 last. Just a real quick recap on those. Moose goes to his new school, which is the same school Piper goes to as well, and Piper instantly starts talking all about Alcatraz, which the warden told Moose is not acceptable. Moose makes some new friends through baseball, especially a boy named Scout. And Piper introduces her Alcatraz laundry service scheme where she's trying to make money off of like having kids give her laundry to put through the Alcatraz laundry so they can be washed by criminals. So today we're going to read chapters 9 through 11. And this is a little bit longer, but we'll get through it. All right, so chapter 9. Nice little church boy. Same day, Monday, January 7th, 1935. Teresa's waiting outside the door when I get back to our new place. Where have you been? We're late. Late? Late for what? Teresa sighs long and loud, like this isn't even worth answering. You have a note from your mom. She hands it to me. It says, Dear Moose, I've gone to Beatrix's to get a perm. Make sure to get your dad up at 6 o'clock. We're going to the officers' club for a party at 6:30. There's a beauty parlor here? I asked Teresa. Nah, Bee does perms in her kitchen. But there's a barber shop for the Collins in the cell house. Come on. I dump my stuff inside. What are we late for? I ask. We're going to the parade grounds to meet my brother, Jimmy, Annie, and Piper. Wait. This Jimmy guy's your brother? How come you didn't tell me you had a brother? Teresa cocks her head and looks at me cross-eyed. Because. Because why? Then you play with him instead of me. He's my age? She nods. So why are you telling me now? Now I know you like me. I do not. Yes, you do. She nods, her whole face earnest. I can't help smiling at this. If we're meeting your brother, I need my glove. I race to my room to get my old glove for him, my new glove for me, and my baseball. Ha, Teresa says when I come back. Jimmy can't throw worth beans. We'll see about that, I say as we head back around 64 building, then follow the curve of the hill to an open cement area big enough to park 30 cars. There are lots of gulls here. Frankie ones, too. Gulls are not happy birds. A big girl with yellow hair sits on the wood side of the sandbox, and a boy huddles over something. The boy looks like Teresa, same curly black hair, same slight build. Hi, I say. I ignore the girl, Annie, I guess. She has her nose sideways to her homework like she sees better out of one eye than the other. Hey, Moose. I'm Jimmy, Jimmy says. He smiles quick up at me, then hunches back over an elaborate machine made of rocks, marbles, sticks, and rubber bands. What is that? I ask. It's a marble shooting machine. Want to see? Sure, I say. He fires a marble with a rubber band. It rolls under a plank and onto a miniature diving board that plunks down and hits another marble that is supposed to jump a stick, only it doesn't. Shucks, Jimmy says, his head low over his contraption again. He fiddles some more and then fires the marble again. This time, it makes the jump. He grins big. Nice. You want to throw some balls? I offer him my glove. Sure. He puts the glove on and runs back, his eyes still on his marble machine. He throws the ball the complete wrong direction. I chase it down and toss it back. It hits his glove and plops out. He runs after it and throws again. This time, down the side of the hill. I'll get it. I cut down the path to the terrace below, where the ball is caught in the prickly thistle of a blackberry bush. When I get back up to the parade grounds, Jimmy is at work on his machine and Teresa has my extra glove. My turn, she says. I throw the ball easy to Teresa. She wraps her arms around it like she's hugging herself. The ball falls through her arms. She chases it down, then throws with both hands from ground level, sending the ball willy-nilly skyward. I guess baseball isn't the Madaman family sport, I say under my breath. Teresa hands me back my glove. There's something else I haven't told you. Oh, really? And what is that? I edge away from her so I can play catch with myself. My mom has to keep her feet up. She's due to have my baby soon. It isn't your baby, Jimmy calls, balancing a stick on two rocks. She has to keep her feet up, otherwise the baby might slip out all of a sudden and bump its head, Teresa says. Teresa. Jimmy looks up from his project. He groans and rolls his eyes. It depends on how long the American cord is. Teresa's little gnome face scrunches up like she's thinking hard about this. And how tall the woman is. Umbilical cord. And shut up about Mom's privates, Teresa, Jimmy orders. I look for a second at Annie. Something about the way she's concentrating makes me think she's paying more attention to us than to her work. How do you do, Annie? I say in my most charming voice. Hello, Moose. She doesn't look up. You wouldn't want to play a little ball, would you? I ask. Slowly and deliberately, she folds down a corner of her book and closes it. She snatches my extra glove and walks out clear to the basketball hoop. I run up close. I don't want to embarrass her. She's only a girl after all. I pop her one light and easy. She catches it no problem and zips me a hard fastball. Wow. I jump in the air, I wave my hands around like some kind of idiot, and then, before I can stop myself, I run up to this Annie girl and give her a big hug. No slobbering, she cries. Sorry, I say, my face hot as a furnace. But then I see a slight little smile in the corner of her mouth. So, Annie. I walk up close so we can talk and throw at the same time. Does anyone else play? Or anyone else here play? No one except the Cons. They play in the rec yard. Sometimes they hit one over the prison yard wall. The way they play, it's an automatic out. But when a ball comes over to our side, we get to keep it. They're pretty popular around here. If the Cons don't want to hit them over, it must not happen that much, I say, catching Annie's brand of stinger, which has a little curve on it. Quite a good throw, if you ask me. Then they try to hit them hard, but not hard enough to go over. Kind of tricky. How many of you guys find? I ask, winding up my own stinger. Annie catches it no problem. I have one. Piper has one. Jimmy has one. None of the little kids do. We're tossing the ball back and forth in a hard, fast rhythm that feels great. My arm is purring. The ball, my glove, my arm are all working together like greased motor parts. Annie is so good, I don't hold back. Where is Piper anyway? I can't keep myself from asking. Charm school. Charm school? That's a laugh. Is it remedial charm or what? Annie catches the ball and holds it. She walks up close enough to whisper, You got to get along with Piper, otherwise she'll make trouble for you and your dad. Can she do that? She can do anything she wants, she says, handing me back my glove, picking up her book and dusting it off. I gotta go in. You going to that party tonight? I ask. Everybody goes, Annie explains. She walks heavy, like she weighs 200 pounds. She's sturdy but not fat, and she has the best throwing arm I've ever seen on a girl. Pete would never believe it. I look around for Teresa and Jimmy, but they're already inside. I toss the ball up in the air and catch it just as the 4 o'clock bell rings. On Alcatraz, the bell rings every hour to remind the guards to count the Cons and make sure no one's escaped. I'm about to go in when I spot Piper. Well, if it isn't our very own Babe Ruth. She's being sarcastic, but to me this is the best compliment in the world. I like to play. What's the matter with that? I say, tossing the ball in the air and catching it barehanded. She looks around the parade grounds, then starts walking back to the road like I'm not the person she's looking for. Did you see me play after school? Why am I asking this? I can feel my face heat up. She snorts but doesn't answer. They teach you how to make those sounds in charm school? I'm half skipping to keep up with her. That's how fast she walks. They teach you how to be a nice little church boy in Santa Monica? Oh, so now I'm a church boy? Talk about playing both sides and down the middle, too. You won't help with our laundry service because you don't want to get in trouble. How do you spell Boy Scout? I just don't feel like doing it. Right, I'll bet you don't feel like doing anything against the warden's rules. How do you know? She makes a strangled little sound in her throat and pulls open her front door. Why do you need me for this laundry plan of yours anyway? Why do you care? I can't put 80 shirts through in my laundry bag now, can I? Annie and Jimmy will help, but that's not enough. How do you know I won't tell your dad? She rolls her eyes, like this question is so stupid to bother answering, and slams the door in my face. All right, Chapter 10, Not Ready. Same day, Monday, January 7th, 1935. Back home, I check the clock, 4:45. Still not time to wake my dad. On my bed, I spread out 2 double ham sandwiches, a bowl of potato salad, and the tail end of a salami, and crack open my book. I've just finished Chapter 11 when I hear the knock. Someone in the back of my head, the knocking has been going on for some time. I run through the living room. Before I even open the door, I know who it is by the whistling, wheezing breathing. Mrs. Capone, I say, staring out at the big woman framed against the green sea in the gloomy gray dusk. You losing your hearing, Moose? I've been banging on this door for 5 whole minutes, Mrs. Capone hisses between breaths. You folks got a call. Mrs. Capone is fat around the middle, with arms as big as thighs and bosoms like two jiggling watermelons. She is hot and out of breath from the walk up the stairs. But Mrs. Capone is the one who answers the phone because it's right outside her door. Given her size and her difficulty with stairs, she seems the wrong person to live in the apartment next to the phone, but nobody asked me. Go on ahead, she wheezes, backing her big self against the wall so I can squeeze by. I think about getting my dad, but he's been so tired I don't have the heart to wake him early. There probably isn't time to get my mom, and she won't want to go outside with all that stinky permanent goop on her hair. At the foot of the stairs, I spot the receiver hanging down. Hello, this is Matthew Flanagan, I say. Matthew? You are? The male voice hesitates. Moose, sir. People call me Moose Flanagan. Oh, yes, Moose. We met yesterday. This is Mr. Purdy, the headmaster at the Esther P. Marinoff, where your sister Natalie is enrolled. Is your mom or dad available? Not right now, sir. Mr. Purdy sighs. All right, then. You'll need to give them a message. Natalie is not settling in as we had hoped. Tell them I'm terribly sorry, but as I explained to your mom, we were only taking her on a trial basis. They need to come and pick her up today. Tonight. Tonight? Is she okay? I ask. Yes, she's fine, son, perfectly fine. She's just not ready for the program we have here is all. Just not ready, he says. Tell your mom and dad they must pick her up tonight. Can you do that for me, son? Natalie isn't ready, I ask, but she's only been there 1 day. 36 hours. Yes, I know. These things become clear rather quickly, I'm afraid. Have your parents call me if they have questions. Otherwise, I will expect them this evening. The phone clicks in my ear and questions flood my brain. Why? What did she do? What happened? How could they know anything about Natalie in 1 day? They didn't even try. I want to go back to Santa Monica, but not this way. Not if it means giving this news to my mom. My feet feel suddenly too heavy, the stairs too steep. I push open our door. My mom is back. Her dark hair is permed flat with one wiggly curl across her forehead. She's wearing a dress I've never seen before. How do I look? She whirls around, her whole face radiant. I get a big whiff of sour perm and heavy perfume smell. I open my mouth, but no words come out. I got my hair done. Didn't you see my note? Mom. The words are frozen in my chest. It's beautiful. My voice cracks. My mom's eyes register that something is wrong. Moose? She touches my shoulder. It was hard to leave her there. Of course it was. What did we expect? But this is her chance, son. She's going to get better. I know it. I feel it right here. She pats her heart. I can't look at her. Time to wake Dad, I mutter. The bed creaks when I sit down in my parents' dark room. But my dad doesn't stir. His hair seemed to have slipped back on his head. It isn't growing thick and full across his forehead the way mine does. His bald spot, which used to be no bigger than a quarter, is now the size of a baseball. The creases in his face look deeper, too. I jiggle his arm. Dad, I say. We have to go pick up Natalie. Mr. Purdy called. They don't want her at the Esther P. Marinoff. She can't stay there, not even tonight. My father opens his eyes. He looks as if he's just stepped on a nail. Come again, he says. By the time I finish explaining the second time, he's sitting up in bed. Does your mom know? I shake my head. He takes a deep breath and lets it out with a whistle. His eyes focus on a warm spot on the rug. Okay, son, I'll take it from here, he says. All right, last chapter for today is chapter 11, The Best in the Country. Same day, Monday, January 7th, 1935. When my dad tells my mom, she seems to have no reaction. She goes in her room, puts on her regular clothes, and comes out with her purse and her gloves in her hand. Let's go, she says, her face blank, her eyes dead. Sit down, honey, my father says. We don't have to go right this minute. Let's just take a deep breath here. Now, my mom says, waiting like a child at the door. My father's shoulders are hunched. He gets his shoes, jacket, and hat and starts to open the door. No, my mother says, you can't go. You have to be at work at 8. I'll go by myself. You can't go by yourself. Yes. My mom shoves my dad hard. His arm bangs the wall. My mouth falls open. I've never seen her do anything like this. Moose, my father asks, his voice quiet. Will you go with your mother? On the boat, my mom seems better. Her eyes are angry now, not dead. Here we go again, I think. Before the Esther P. Marinoff, the Berryman School was it. And before that, the heat treatments. And before that, the aluminum formula. And before that, UCLA. At UCLA, they made us cut Natalie's hair, shave it right off. They tested her like she was some kind of insect. They tested the movement of her eyes, the sensitivity of her ears, the color of her pee. They tested allergies, reflexes, muscle strength. Her speech in a dark room, her reaction to Tchaikovsky, the way she ate, slept, burped, blew her nose, and even what she thought, especially what she thought. Nothing about her was private. At home, she'd spend hours in her room, rocking like a boat in a terrible storm. But it was UCLA, my mother would remind us. When she said the name, it had a golden glow. They had promised us a cure, if a word my mother can't ever seem to hear. Natalie's problem fit the diagnosis they were studying. And so I spent months riding in the rumble seat of my Graham's car to and from Westwood and sitting out in hours sitting in the waiting room until the day they let us know their findings. An interesting case, they said, but not what we're looking for. You should consider donating her brain to science when she dies. When she dies, my mother said. She's 10 years old. They shrugged their shoulders and handed my dad a bill. Things fell apart at my house after that. Ants in the sink, flies on the garbage, cereal for supper, no clean dishes. Natalie in the same dirty dress, the blood of pig scabs on her arm. It was months before my mother left the house again. And that was with my mom's sisters, my Gram and Grandpa, her friends and cousins all around. I don't remember when my mom decided Natalie was going to stay 10, but I think it might have been then. Sitting in Mr. Purdy's office, I imagine punching him in the nose. My arm twitches just thinking about it. I'm afraid Mr. Purdy explains when he comes in. She's more involved than we can handle right now. We're equipped for boys with the kind of challenges your daughter faces, but not girls. You might want to look into Deerham in Marin County. Mr. Purdy hands my mother a card with an address scribbled on it. Deerham, my mother's voice catches. Isn't that an asylum? I don't think it's helpful to get caught up with words, Mrs. Flanagan. We're looking for a way to help your daughter. Let's not let words come between us. My mother takes her green feathered hat off as if she's staying. The kids who graduate from her school get jobs. They have lives. Some of them do get jobs, yes. That's what I want for Natalie. I understand that, Mrs. Flanagan, but it's not working out for her here. It's only been 2 days. Surely even a usual child would have had some adjustment to a new setting. Mr. Purdy grunts. Mr. Purdy is the kind of man who can make a grunt seem polite. My husband and I, my mom continues, have done a lot of research on this, and we believe this program, your program, is the best in the country. You are turning out kids who can function in the world. That's kind of you to say, but, and I don't think my mother is unstoppable, that we will be able to replicate your success elsewhere. So I wonder if there isn't some way we can make this work. Mr. Purdy shakes his head. She can't stay here now, but if you wish, I can put you in touch with someone who might be able to help Natalie. Help her. Get ready, my mother offers. She sits up straighter in her chair. Yes, Mr. Purdy smiles, his ladylike hands fingertip to fingertip. He tips them toward my mother like he's rolling a ball to her. Then he swivels in his squeaky chair to get a folder behind him. He copies a number down on a slip of paper and hands it to my mother. My mother looks at the page, then folds it close. Mr. Purdy stands up to signal the end of our meeting. I stand up too. My mother does not. Mr. Purdy and I sit down again. I'm proud of my mother for this. Proud of her for getting all she can from this man, but I'm angry too. No matter what this little paper says, my mother will do it. Once she's sent away for voodoo dolls and carefully followed the instructions some witch doctor in the West Indies wrote about how to relieve Natalie's condition. Another time, she took Natalie to a church where everybody stood up and waved their arms. She read the Bible to her for 2 hours every day while Natalie sat staring at her right hand as if there was a movie playing on her palm, and she couldn't bear to pull herself away. And then there was a school where my mom taught music classes for free until they let Natalie in. And when they did, Natalie just sat in the fancy classroom tearing bits of paper into tiny pieces. With Natalie, there never is a happy ending. But my mother won't believe that. Forgive me, Mr. Purdy. I'd like to know what happened, my mom says, her brown eyes staring him down. I'd hoped Mr. Flanagan would be here with you. Mr. Purdy looks at me. My husband is working the evening shift. Of course, Mr. Purdy nods. He looks around his cluttered office as if he's searching for a way out. Natalie is, I would say, unresponsive. He peeks on my mother to see if this will do. My mother doesn't blink. I'm afraid there was a bit of a skirmish over a box of buttons and some unfortunate behavior. Your daughter is 10, you said, Mrs. Flanagan. Mr. Purdy's watery eyes are suddenly sharply focused on my mom. Yes, my mother says, her white gloved fingers closed into a tight fist around the handles of her green pocketbook. She gets up early. She likes to watch the sunrise, I say. Mr. Purdy looks at me in the back of my mom. As you can see, we are located in Presidio Heights. It's a fine residential neighborhood, but perhaps not an ideal spot for someone like your daughter. His voice trails off. My mother waits, and though our neighbors are largely encouraging of what we're trying to do here, we must be cautious about taking children who might strain the relationships we've worked so hard to build. Children who are, one might say, overly vocal. She screamed? My mother asked. Yes, she did, for the better part of an hour, I'm afraid. Your daughter's voice is quite shrill, and coupled with her early rising habits. But you think this is something that, my mother holds up the folded slip of paper, Mrs. Kelly can help us with. Indeed, I do, Mr. Purdy says, standing up again. He has his goodbye smile on, and he's looking at his watch. And why is this different for boys? She asks. The boys' cottage is located in the old maid's quarters, which is farther from the neighbors. Mr. Purdy sits down again. He sketches a quick map for us. It looks like a bad pirate's map with X's marked for the treasure. Did you take her buttons away? I ask. My mom looks at me, then back at Mr. Purdy. We can't have a child who screams like a banshee at 5:15 in the morning in a neighborhood like this. Now, if you'd like to spend some time working with Mrs. Kelly, there's a good possibility she can help Natalie bring this problem under control. I can't promise you, of course, but if Mrs. Kelly feels that Natalie is ready for our program, we'll consider her application again in May. My mother is up now, offering her hand to Mr. Purdy to shake. Of course, my husband and I appreciate all the help you've given us. In the waiting room, Natalie's legs are open the way my mother always tells her not to sit. She is seated on a needlepoint brocade chair, and I see the way her finger is moving, that she is counting the stitches in the seat. We wait until she finishes the last stitch at the bottom before she starts again with the first stitch at the top. Our timing is perfect. We've had a lot of practice at this, my mother and I. I grab the old brown suitcase that says Natalie Flanagan on all 6 sides, and we hustle Natalie out the door. She is walking behind us now, a teenage girl, acting as if she's 8. All right, so that was chapters 9 through 11. The question you're going to need to answer involving these chapters is about why Moose's mother tries so hard to fix Natalie. And what I mean by fix Natalie is to help Natalie become a normal child, meaning just we know she has special needs, and her mother really wants her to be able to function in the world and be able to get a job and things like that one day. So you need to answer the question as to why her mother is trying so hard to fix Natalie. If you have any questions about this after listening through these chapters and thinking about it, then you can let me know.